Americans are capable of achieving extraordinary things when they have the freedom and opportunity to do so. This is American Potential. And here's your host, Jeff Crank.
All right, well, thanks for joining us on another edition of American Potential. We appreciate you joining us. And one of the things I love talking about is tax cuts. I mean, isn't it great when we're able to help guide and give the people their money back to them? It doesn't belong to government in the first place. And to be able to do that means that governments can be more efficient and have less impact on the lives of people. And, you know, as the price of things go up every day, and we see that, lawmakers in West Virginia wanted to leave more money in people's wallets. How'd they do that? Well, they passed a 21% income tax cut, with the goal being to get to a 0% income tax. Imagine if that were your state, how great that would be. So how'd they get this passed? How did the people of West Virginia get involved to help get this through the legislature? On today's episode, we have Crescent Gallagher, who is the Deputy State Director in this for Americans for Prosperity in the state of West Virginia, and Mike Kessinger, who is a West Virginia resident. He's a business owner, and he is the mayor of a small town. So thank you both for coming on. I appreciate you joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me just first ask Crescent. I want to talk about the tax cut being this. How is this made possible, right? I want to find out how AFP West Virginia was kind of involved in this whole effort first and foremost.
Yeah. In West Virginia, we've had a couple years of a flat budget where lawmakers did the right thing and kept government spending in check. And so we had record surpluses because of a stronger economy, a stronger coal economy because of some things around the world. But lawmakers have kept the budget relatively flat the last couple of years. And frankly, when you do that, you have to find ways to return that money, the people's money, to the folks of West Virginia. So we encouraged our lawmakers to use these record surpluses to find a way to eliminate the income tax in the state, and provide a pathway to prosperity that eventually eliminates the income tax altogether. So we ended up at a 21% reduction this year, which is great, but we put into law a way to eliminate that income tax as long as certain economic markers are met. So it's been a great thing for the state, especially when we see record inflation. We see small business owners struggling. Everything's gone up for the price of food, the price of gas. The people of West Virginia needed some relief. So AFP West Virginia really encouraged our lawmakers, one, to take the fiscal responsibility first, keep budgets flat, and then return that money to the people of West Virginia. So we're hopeful that our lawmakers will continue down that path so we can eliminate the income tax altogether. But, all we did during session was, hey, let's elevate real people like Mike to the legislature. Let's get these people connected. Let's do a teletown hall with the governor. Let's send some information out to people in the state. Let's make this issue known, because when you have these record surpluses, the lawmakers had to do something, and their options were either return money to the people or do some pet projects. And AFP West Virginia encouraged people, our lawmakers, to return that money to the people in the form of an income tax reduction.
But you're exactly right, Crescent. It's those promises that that in 2012 that the Republicans ran on, and that through good leadership from the governor, tremendous leadership from the governor. I have to give him credit to get this across the finish line. But, I got to give you guys credit. You guys have done a tremendous job in realizing what's happened. But what's truly happened in the state of West Virginia, being a West Virginian all of my life, is that in 2012, our state took a major transition, right? So in 2012, we got conservative people that voted conservative values that that was interested in everything that you were saying, along with God, along with guns, along with all the conservative values that we as Americans and we as West Virginians and anybody appreciates. So those promises in 2012, that's what we're seeing now. And I want to personally, honestly, I mean, I know we're not here to make acclamations to anybody, but I want to thank the governor, his leadership in West Virginia, to getting that across the goal line. He took his time. He come around to each area of the state. I was there in Beckley. He brought his tax plan out. He knew, and he presented it. And thank God the House responded like they did, and we was able to move, and the Senate worked it out. Big wheels kind of turn slow, and sometimes it don't work the way that that we would like to see it. But the fact of the matter is, you're exactly right. I mean, it's those conservative values. It's the promises that were ran on 2012 that turned the state from being, at that time, probably at 4-1, Democrat versus Republican, conservative versus liberal, basically in the state of West Virginia, in the legislature. And that's what took place. And so now, we're seeing what? How far are we out? 2012, where are we at? So we're looking at how many years is that? So we're 10 years, right? So we're a 10-year overnight success virtually, but it's been work.
Well, and it sounds like Crescent, as you guys were getting this through the legislature, some in the Senate were reluctant to pass a 50% tax cut. So how did you work with legislators to convince them to make it go big rather than go small?
I think Mike said the first step was getting the governor on board, and Governor Justice really agreed with our plan. If we're going to do something big like this, you can't nibble around the edges. You got to do something that actually returns relief and money to the people of West Virginia. So having the governor on board was the first step. The House of Delegates followed suit. They were 100% with reducing the income tax. And we just had to work with the Senate. We had to kind of come have them see the light, have them see the realities that, hey, folks are struggling. People want this tax reduction. You guys have done the right thing by keeping budgets flat. And it's time for action now. You can't just, go take your ball home and go home because you didn't get the plan you wanted. And frankly, in the previous year, we had an election where we tried to reduce a different kind of tax that's protected in our Constitution. The people spoke out. They said, hey, we don't want that. And so the best next thing was reduce the income tax in the state of West Virginia. And the legislature finally heard that. All we did was encourage our lawmakers along the way. But when you have the governor and the House of Delegate leadership saying, hey, let's reduce this income tax, that helped a lot. So all we did was put a little pressure on the Senate. They eventually came and found a compromise, and we reduced taxes for the people of West Virginia.
Yeah, this is great. Mike, you're the mayor of a small town there in West Virginia. Tell us a bit about your town. And then you're also a businessman, and I want to hear about how this tax cut will affect your business.
Yeah, great. So I guess when you talk about the city of Mount Hope, that could be a longer podcast than spring gobbler season in West Virginia, right? So we got a lot going on there, a little small town, but we just happened to be at the right place at the right time. So yeah, things are great there. Things are moving and progressing. On the outside, they don't look really great right now, but what's working and what's happening and what's being developed right now with some help from, the earmarks, which came in just tremendous. COVID was tough, but had to deal with all that, but yet there was some funding that, came available, and, it's been tough, right, with the city, but looking forward, I think the next 2 to 3 years, we're actually had some awards that we'll be receiving. These earmarks is our little football stadium is pretty amazing. It's like a castle. It's amazing. So we're going to build an amphitheater in there.
Football's important in West Virginia.
Oh, it's absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, at least in Mount Hope, it used to be. We lost our school, and so we don't have a high school anymore, but we still have a dynamic football stadium. It's amazing. It's like a castle. Google it, you'll find it. The City of Mount Hope football stadium, and it's amazing. So we're gonna build an amphitheater in there. We're gonna have nice venues, big venues that could, we want to build a grandstand about like the state fair's grandstand, so we can bring in big entertainers, have big concerts, maybe 3 or 4 a year. Some nice family, community stuff, right? So, but we want to be able to bring in entertainers that the people deserve to be able to have there. So, some exciting things. So that is going on there.
Let's talk about your business and how this tax cut will affect your business and the other businesses in your community.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a trucking company and a construction company, and those are probably the 2 toughest businesses in the world a fella could be in. But nevertheless, I guess it's where we find ourselves, and in how it affects, I guess, mostly the most gratifying, instant gratification. If that's what we're looking for, instant gratification is seeing what it's doing to in the lives of our employees. It's literally putting thousands of dollars back in their pockets, and these people have real life struggles, and they're dealing with family, and they're dealing with children, and they're living life, right? And like as you said earlier in the introduction, talking about inflation, I mean, it's just sad that we're dealing with such a horrible climate nationally, with what we're seeing now. But it's coming at a good time to help folks, help families, put more money in their pocket when, doggone dozen eggs has went up, right? So
yeah, and ultimately, Mike, that's what this is about, right? Is helping individual people, individual families, individual taxpayers, and that's often forgotten by the politicians. Crescent, I want to ask you about that. I mean, it sounds like you were able, through Americans for Prosperity, to help bring these stories to life, right? The stories of average, everyday citizens to the legislators, and really tell that story and the impact that this kind of a tax cut could have on the people of West Virginia, but specifically the impact it would have on that individual's life.
Yeah, one of the best things we did was have a teletown hall with our Governor Justice, and he got to hear from real West Virginians about their struggles, about the retired welder who's feeling the pinch of inflation, just like Mike brought up. He needs more money in his pocket. Taxes. I think we were 14th highest tax when it came to income tax in the country, and frankly, that wasn't good enough. So it's really easy when you're in the state capitol to ignore those real people. Those people like the mother who's trying to get food for their children, the welder who is trying to keep his job and keep their house. I mean, when folks are struggling, it's really easy to get blindsided when you're in the Capitol and those folks aren't talking to you. And a lot of these people, I mean, West Virginia is a big state. It's hard to get to the Capitol at times because these people have real jobs, they have real problems, and they can't take off time from work to get down and really have their voice heard. So when we were connecting folks that were saying, hey, I'm struggling, I need more money in my pocket. Why have we cut budgets flat? What are these surpluses that are record highs, billions of dollars? Why aren't they being returned to us who are really struggling because gas was over $4, prices of eggs were $7.99 and above. So when you hear those real stories of Bobby Sue, who's in the next holler, or the welder or the coal miner that's really looking to maybe make an investment in their community, that's when it's hard to ignore those real stories, because there was folks at the legislature who were saying, hey, if we don't get our plan, we're ready to go home, and we don't care. And that's not the right response when you have record surpluses.
Yeah. Well, and when I think of West Virginians, I think of good, honest, hardworking people. And I think most Americans would say that about the people of West Virginia. The goal here is to go to a 0% income tax, to no income tax. Is that the overall goal? And how do you get there?
Yeah, the goal and the best thing about this law is we put into a pathway to eliminate the income tax as a whole. I think my generation has seen prices of housing skyrocket. And so folks are actually looking for those low income, affordable places to live. And we got people from California and New Hampshire looking to move to West Virginia, looking to move to small communities like Mike's the mayor of. And when they see an income tax being reduced to zero, that means more money in their pocket. And that's a flashing billboard to the rest of the country that, hey, we're open for business. The rest of the country, you might not be able to afford to live there, but like come to West Virginia and really start your dream, really start a family, because that dream is still alive here in the Mountain State.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything Crescent said. And I'll say this, I said that it's a 10-year overnight success, but I think the large reason why it's that is the leadership that you guys, Crescent, and you guys have done in Charleston to help navigate the big wheels of government, right? So we all know how it works. These guys get down there, they're bombarded with everything under the sun, but yet when we've got a true north, and you guys have been able to take the folks that ran on these promises and that said this is what, and I would credit you guys for taking all of that and getting us there, and so I totally agree. I mean, it's all about helping the West Virginians, helping folks with real problems. I mean, I think so far we get so bogged down and so in debt with this policy and that policy, and we've got all these things going on in government, and we forget that we've got real people with real problems trying to sort it out every day, and all they need is a little help and to get out of the way for the government to just, if the government's going to do anything, West Virginians aren't looking for the government to take care of us. We don't want the government to take care of us. We want the government to just allow us to do what we do best, and so I appreciate the work that Crescent and these guys have done. And I personally think that yeah, if that plan, if the plan that the governor, I hope the governor is able to follow through with this in a foreseeable future, the near future, within the runway, West Virginians won't have to pay income tax. And the immediate benefit that folks are seeing right now that I like the most about this, because when I talk to folks and I know how it impacts my life and how it affects my business. But then when I'm talking to folks that are single parent mothers that are working their butt off, and their child's got, medical problems, and she's trying to do all these things and do it right. And yet when I could see that, $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 that's going to make a big difference in their personal life. Not only that, but what it's going to do in the economy, right? So it only makes sense. It's not only looking at it from a standpoint of her, but looking at it sort of with Reaganomics that everybody laughed at, right? So, I just appreciate and value what the heavy lifting that you guys are doing in Charleston to get these things, to get these agendas, to get this, what we need to do to get America back on track and get West Virginia back on track, and to have that diligency and leadership on a daily basis down there working with our legislators. Because just like Crescent said, hey man, I'm trying to raise a family, I'm trying to run a business, I'm trying to be the mayor of my little town, and I'm busy. I'm doing everything that I can, and every now and then I like to go turkey hunting.
There you go. Well, I really want to thank both of you for joining us today, and Sounds like it's just going to be transformational for the state of West Virginia, and I'm excited about that. There's several states around the country, so thank you both for joining us today. There's several states around the country that have 0% income tax already. They have no income tax. Some states are moving to that, but I will tell you, you're seeing around the country, people can make a choice, and they choose with their feet. They choose with their wallets. They make decisions. States like Illinois and other states where we have higher taxes and bigger government, people are leaving those states. They're fleeing California. They're fleeing Illinois and these other states, and they're going to states that have lower taxes and less burdensome government and where liberty and freedom can reign for them. And that's what this is all about. So good on West Virginia for doing this, and thank you both for joining me. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening to American Potential.
Thank you for listening to American Potential. You may listen to more stories from Americans working every day to expand freedom and opportunity in their communities by visiting AmericanPotential.com.